UH Day at the Capitol is really very important for us. I mean, it is the day we paint Austin red.
This is the opportunity for the legislators and their offices to see the faces and to hear the stories of the UH community. Every major financial initiative at the university with state funding comes from here and comes from these legislators.
We're a public university. We get a huge percentage of our funding from the legislature, but we never want them to forget that we know how important they are.
This is the largest gathering of students and alumni for a university in our state. We make a tremendous difference, and that's what makes it such a important day, is just to show that we're all unified as a university.
It's just a great experience. It gets you excited to be a Cougar and to go to U of H. It makes you proud that you go to such an involved university.
It also is a reminder that investment in higher education is of significance. It is valuable.
We've been able to increase our research dollars. We've been able to hire great faculty. Those things have propelled us higher and higher in national rankings. Because of that, you've seen the reputation of the university just grow and grow.
One of the things we're doing at the University of Houston is making sure everybody knows in the state of Texas that we are a powerhouse and we're going to be everywhere.
It's important that the legislature recognizes that the investment that has happened in the past is something that should continue in the future. We haven't gotten to where we are without that investment, and we're not going to get to the place where we want to go as a university without that future investment.
I think it's really started something. It's something beyond just a pride that we have for one day, and it's a culture now. It's the way that we live our lives. We're proud to be Cougars in everything that we do, and being able to celebrate that today is really special.
Good evening. We're delighted to have you with us. As alumni, you play a very important role in the life of the university, and we want you to be fully informed regarding the University of Houston's legislative priorities. In the next few minutes, you will hear from our guest legislators who will provide their insight. At the end of this webinar, please stay tuned for information from the president of the Austin Alumni Association on a very important initiative and how you can be involved. With that, I will turn it over to Mike.
Thank you so much, Drew. Thank you so much, and welcome to the University of Houston's virtual UH Day at the Capitol. My name is Mike Paday, class of 1989, and I'm so glad you could be here this evening for what we hope will be an educational and an opportunity for you to hear what the University of Houston's legislative agenda is for this upcoming session. You'll hear from some of our great local legislators and have a great conversation about what is going to be discussed in the State House in Austin this spring and how it will affect the continued ascension of the University of Houston in the future. We have a jam-packed show for you today, and I know you want to get started, but I want to welcome so many of you joining us from around the country and even halfway around the world in places like England and Vietnam this evening, and also those great American spots like North Carolina, Virginia, Arizona, Maryland, New York, Colorado, Florida, Ohio, California, and Washington, D.C. There are over 350 of you have registered this evening. Tonight, alumni, faculty, staff, and students, and we'll be recording our program and distributing it to all alumni and faculty, staff, and students later this week, so we continue to have the most educated constituency in the country. Cougars making things happen, and tonight we are really going to make things happen. We have a great panel, and we're going to get things started. So we have some great folks to introduce to you tonight, and our first speaker at this point is the president of the University of Houston Student Government Association, Jasmine Katamakberry.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Jasmine Katamakberry, and I'm the University of Houston Student Body President. I want to thank everyone for joining us on this lovely Tuesday evening. And I want to start out by saying how truly honored I am to be joined by our Texas leaders and elected representatives who are committed to improving the lives of people and students across our great and big state. It's no secret that this past year was a challenging one. Across our state, people have not only lost their jobs and livelihoods, but friends and family members as well. Our sense of normalcy, safety, and routine was taken from us, and every day we are challenged to adapt. And students are no strangers to adaptation. Shifting our courses to mostly online brought a new onslaught of challenges to the table Ensuring that students have adequate access to fast internet, technology, and resources to continue the high quality levels of education is no easy task. I mean, just ask our faculty and university administration. Not to mention that the financial strain put on our institution was not just put on our institution, but on students themselves. With campus closures, financial strains on businesses, and health and safety concerns, many students and their parents have lost or have had to leave their jobs because of COVID-19, including my own family. Extra stressors and lack of interpersonal communication and connection have led to concerns about students' mental health as they try to navigate career building, finding internships and employment, as well as managing their grades in a totally brand new virtual environment. And with that being said, there is some comfort in knowing that we are not alone in facing these challenges and that we have our representatives in the Texas legislature that I hope will continue to prioritize investing in higher education. Because an investment in higher education goes way beyond just funding buildings or projects. Investing in higher education is investing in the future, a future that is built by people and by students. Investing in higher education is about investing in us. And the University of Houston, a Hispanic serving institution and one of the most diverse universities in the nation, has given me and so many others a unique experience, an experience that's built on open-mindedness and learning from different perspectives and life experiences. The University of Houston draws its strength from its diversity, and students leave the university not just with the professional skills needed to lead in their respective fields, but with a broader perspective on how to interact and understand people from different perspectives and different from themselves. And that skill set is invaluable. That is the power of our diversity. It's what inspired me to run to represent my student body. And I hope that the Texas leaders that are here today see our strength and will act to preserve that strength. Go Cougs.
Thank you so much, Jasmine. We really appreciate your leadership of our student body this year and all year long. We so appreciate that leadership. I also want to thank the president of the University of Houston Alumni Association Foundation Board of Directors, Drew Da Silva, our two-time graduate of the University of Houston, for her opening remarks. And now to continue with our program, let me introduce to you the president of the University of Houston and the chancellor of the University of Houston system, Dr. Renu Khator.
Thank you, Mike. Good evening, everyone. Thank you, Jasmine, for your absolutely beautiful remarks. You make us so proud. You know, the good thing about going after the students is that you just don't have to say very much to make your case. They make it themselves. And Jasmine represents our students, full of passion, full of positive attitude, full of resiliency and adaptation. And these are the students who make the University of Houston such a special place. I want to also acknowledge some other players who are extremely important for the university, and they make us take. First of all, our president of the University of Houston Faculty Senate is also joining us today, and I want to say thank you to Dr. Jeronimo Cortina, who has been doing such an outstanding job during this crisis. What a wonderful leadership you're providing, Dr. Cortina. Also joining us on this webinar is Shanika White, President of Staff Council. There's so many staff members who have absolutely tirelessly, selflessly have been there to support our students, to support the faculty so we could continue with the mission. Thank you so much. But today, really, the most important thanks and heartfelt gratitude goes to our Texas legislature members, our wonderful House members and our senators. You are the heroes. I mean, look what you have been able to do at the University of Houston. Where we were, where we are, it never would have been possible without you. You are our heroes. Last session was a spectacular session for us. Thank you for approving the College of Medicine. It's doing wonderful today. For this next class of 30 students, which will be the second class, we had 6,000 plus students initiated the application. 4,000 were invited back to complete their application, and we are in the process of selecting 30. That tells us about the demand. So thank you so much. It's an incredibly diverse class. Also for supporting our Law Center building. I mean, that is such a jewel for the University of Houston. The building was very tired. You listened to us and you just provided that championship for the University of Houston in the legislature that we got it done. The funding formula, the TRBs, the overtime period, all of the research programs that you have passed. Please know that all of us Cougars really are grateful to you. We thank you. However, I want to make sure that I have this opportunity to talk about what is coming in this session. I know it's going to be a very difficult session. It's going to be a very different kind of session. We understand that. But then after all, we are Cougars. I want to make sure that we are still dreaming. We are still thinking about moving ahead. We are still thinking about serving our students to the best of our ability, to helping Houston grow and continue to be a competitive city globally. And in order to do that, we have some requests from the legislature, and we just want to make sure to our wonderful House members and senators to please keep us in mind. Please continue to invest in higher education. So we recently completed a year-long strategic planning process. We involved thousands of people in it, and we've taken advice from people, those who have expressed to us things in the past, those who have expressed to us their vision for the future. And one of the critical elements of this strategic plan is to build the University of Houston into the top 50 public universities in the nation. Now, I want to address two things about it. One is, you might say, well, is it possible? I mean, isn't it too ambitious? Because that's what we heard. I want you to know currently we are 87th public university in the nation. And it seems like a huge jump of 37 points, but let's think about it where we were 10 years ago. We were 127. If we can come from 127 to 87, I know we can go from 87 to 50, but we have not done it alone and we will not do it alone. We just want to make sure that this vision is also shared by our wonderful Texas leaders and see that they'll continue to help us. Now, I also want to address a second point about this top ranking, and that is we have done complete assessment on how we are going to get from 87 to 50. And it's not on the backs of the research. Of course, we do that because we are a research university. It's not on the backs of all the wonderful research and discoveries going on that will continue to go on. Our maximum gap is about student success, about affordability of education. We have to continue to make sure that we keep an eye on that. About success is students' graduation. It is about being able to support students, being able to provide scholarships, being able to have graduation rate, that is important, and being able to serve the students who don't have otherwise opportunities. And I am proud of all of these different tools that we need in order for us to be in top 50. That is the reason we have adopted that. So we are requesting, pleading that here is a vision, this is where we can go together. But I know we cannot do it alone. So to everybody here, our alumni and donors and supporters and friends, faculty, staff, and students who have joined, let's go together and let's soar together. To our Texas leaders, once again, thank you so much. I know how many times I have come to your office pleading for this or that, and you have never disappointed me. And thank you for being so patient, and thank you for all of your support. If there's anything the University of Houston, our faculty, staff, students, alumni can do for you, please do not hesitate to ask. We are very proud to be Cougars, and we want to just say, go Cougs.
Thank you so much, Chancellor Couture, and thank you so much for your leadership. Our next speaker has been on our Board of Regents for 12 years and chairman for 7. His leadership has helped lead the University of Houston to new heights, and with The help of his fellow regents has been a transformational leader in the transformation of our alma mater that only few could have envisioned. Please welcome Chairman of the University of Houston Board of Regents, Chairman Tillman Fertitta.
Thanks, Mike. Gosh, good evening, everyone. It's great to be a part of our UH Day at the Capitol. This is my 12th one in a row, and I would much rather be with everybody in person. It's always a fun day being with all the legislators and the leaders of the state of Texas, as well with all the U of H people that seem to go every year, because we realize how important it is. So it's still great to see everybody and a lot of you. It's just not the same. I'd love to recognize our board of trustees, Gerald McElvey, our esteemed vice chairman, Beth Madison, secretary, Durga Agarwal, Alonzo Cantu, Steve Chasen, Doug Brooks, Dr. John McCall, Jack Moore, and Alvarado de la Cruz, our student regent. Thank you for all joining us this evening. This is the best group of regents that I've served with right now. So I appreciate all of y'all so much, and hopefully none of the others are on the phone, but I can tell you it's the growth of the University of Houston has happened, and what we've seen happen in the last 13 years since the chancellor's been our president and chancellor, what has happened at the University of Houston is basically untouched by any other university in the whole United States of what we've accomplished. And it's great leadership at the university, and it's having great boards that the governor and the legislators have approved for us to change out every few years. So once again, there's no better board than we have right now. And thank you, Regents, for joining us this evening. The members of this panel represent over 100 years of legislative experience, well over 100 years. My good friend, Senator John Wittmeyer, has almost 50 of them all by himself. So does that mean you're smarter than the rest of them combined, John? I'm just curious. But, when I look at who's on this panel this evening, I mean, these are dear friends of the university, and I know dear friends of mine. Senator Alvarado, many years, Senator Creigh, the Honorable Boris Miles, and of course, my good friend, our senior senator in the state of Texas, John Wittmeyer. Thank you, the Honorable Dennis Paul and Armando Wally for joining us also. But the difference that the legislators make is what lets things happen and how we've been able to grow in the last few years. And they're committed every single legislative session, besides all year long, coming and helping us and devising our plan to make the University of Houston what it is today. And we can't do it without these guys. Everybody's going to get a lot out of this tonight. Next, there's so many people from the University of Houston community that have joined us tonight. And I just thank y'all very, very much for showing how important this is to y'all. And we all know this. We have big things we want to accomplish at the University of Houston. And we can't do it without the alumni, the great Board of Regents, and of course, these great legislators that are on the phone with us tonight. So thank you all very much, and I'll hand it back to you, Mike.
Thank you, Chairman. We appreciate you very much. And now we're going to get started with our conversation. Some people think it's a discussion. No, this is going to be a conversation tonight. I know many of you have submitted questions during your registration, and we're going to try to get to as many of those as we possibly can. If questions arise during the discussion and you'd like to ask them, please place them in your chat, and we will try to address those as well if time will allow. We've also adjusted our plan to allow a little more time at the end of our program on the back end to be sure we get to as many of those questions as we possibly can. To moderate today's discussion and to introduce you to our outstanding panel, please welcome Vice President for Governmental Relations, Jason Smith.
Thank you, Mike. Appreciate you. Thanks everyone for being on. I'm going to do a very quick introduction of all the legislators who are here today, and then we'll get to the questions. So first, we have State Senator Carol Alvarado, who represents District 6, which consists of the north side of Houston, Edo, Southeast Houston, parts of Pasadena, and Galena Park. Senator Alvarado was first elected to the Texas House in 2009 and then to the Texas Senate in 2018, and is serving her second term in the Texas Senate. She is a double graduate of the University of Houston with a BA in political science and a master's of business administration from the Bauer College of Business. State Senator Brandon Creighton, who represents District 4, is with us. His district encompasses Montgomery, Harris, Chambers, Jefferson, and Galveston counties. He was elected to the Texas House in 2007 and then elected to the Texas Senate in 2014. He's a current chairman of the Senate Committee on Higher Education, a very important committee for us as a higher education institution in Texas. And we appreciate you being here with us, Senator Creighton. State Senator Boris Miles is with us. He represents District 13, which consists of course, the historic 3rd Ward, Sunnyside, Downtown, Midtown, Greater 5th Ward, Kashmere Gardens, Houston Gardens, Missouri City, Alief, and Sharpstown. And his district includes the University of Houston and the University of Houston Downtown. He was first elected to the Texas House of Representatives in 2006, and then elected to the Texas Senate in 2017, now serving in his third legislative session. This session, he is serving on the Criminal Justice, Health and Human Services Committee, Higher Education, and the Nominations Committee. State Representative Dennis Paul is with us. He represents District 129, which consists of portions of Southeast Harris County, including Clear Lake, Webster, Nassau Bay, and parts of Pearland and Friendswood. His district includes the University of Houston Clear Lake. He was first elected in 2014 and is beginning his 4th term in office serving his constituents. He's a double University of Houston graduate with a BS and an MS from the Cullen College of Engineering. State Representative Armando Wally is with us. He represents District 140, which consists of portions of North Houston and unincorporated portions of North Harris County and parts of the North Side and Aldine communities. Representative Wally was first elected in 2008 and is now starting his 7th legislative session serving his constituents. This session, he will be serving on the powerful Appropriations Committee for the 4th straight session. He's a double University of Houston graduate with an undergrad degree in 2004 and a JD, a Juris Doctorate from the UH Law Center in 2014. Good to see Representative Wally. And finally, State Senator John Wittmeyer represents District 15, which includes the Houston Heights, the north side of the city of Houston, and parts of northern Harris County. Senator Wittmeyer was first elected to the Texas House in 1972 while attending the University of Houston as a student, and was subsequently elected to the Texas Senate in 1982, making him the Dean of the Texas Senate. He's the longtime chairman of the Senate Criminal Justice Committee and serves on the Business and Commerce, Finance, and Redistricting Committees. He has a BA from the University of Houston and attended Bates College of Law at the University of Houston. Welcome, everybody. Thank you for joining us after a long legislative day. So for my first question, I'm going to go back to Senator Wittmeyer and ask, Senator, I think today, again, we're in the midst of a second impeachment trial of the president. We see all of us see the discourse out in the public, and we see our Congress folks in DC disagreeing with each other more than they agree. And I think we see the folks that know the Texas legislature, we see that there's lots of bipartisanship there. We try not to get into those types of fights more than we have to. And so as the Dean of the Texas Senate, you take your job very seriously of making sure state government works. Tell us how you do that, how we do that in Texas, and how we've been able to avoid becoming Washington, D.C.
Well, thank you for bringing us together. On behalf of all the participants, I want to thank you for arranging this for 6 o'clock in the afternoon after we've worked all day. I don't know whether to give you, Jason, or the Chancellor or Tillman credit for having to skip dinner so we can be so respectful of our U of H students and faculty. I think it's safe to say if it wasn't U of H, we'd probably still be in finance or in our committee rooms. I notice most of my colleagues are still in their Capitol offices. I am. I just fussed at my office staff for putting this nice red background. I'd much rather have my Capitol office so y'all will know that we're still working late. You know, to answer your question, it's just the Texas way. Historically, certainly when I got here, partisanship wasn't the main issue because we were all Democrats. In 1973, when I went to the House, 150 House members, there were 17 Republicans, and we didn't even discuss partisan politics. Unfortunately, as the states evolved and too many Republicans moved into the state from the north and other locations, we've learned to adapt. But on a very serious note, I think when you look at the quality of Brandon Creighton, Representative Paul, other Republican colleagues that are participating tonight, we all agree to leave our politics at the door. At the election, we're very partisan. We feel strongly about our views. We respectfully disagree. But when it comes to U of H, for instance, that's not a Democrat or Republican issue. That's, you know, U of H accepts students from all parts of Harris County, Houston, Clear Lake, you name the vicinities, statewide and even from out of state. So no qualifier, are you a Democrat or Republican? You want a good education, you choose U of H, and that's exhibited by the leadership. I don't think when Renew was hired, she was asked whether she was a Democrat or Republican. And I'm still trying to figure out, quite frankly, what her affiliation is. I thought at one time I knew what Tillman was, but he keeps me confused too. I think he's very practical in that what's good for business, what's good for the students. Houston, Harris County, the state of Texas is what is his calling. So to answer your question, most of the issues we deal with, 90% plus, are not Democrat or Republican issues. They're people issues. And when we write the budget, we look to delivering services. And I want to congratulate U of H for coming up with a model for their medical school. You know, we don't have a shortage of doctors in the med center in Houston, Texas, but we do have a shortage of healthcare delivery in Third Ward and in our inner city. So Renew, Tillman, your board being the successful people and the visionaries that they are, we're going to have a med school that's committed to going into our inner city and delivering healthcare. And the delegation's going to be watching to make certain that that commitment's met. While I'm here, let's also plug Medicaid expansion. We need to expand Medicaid expansion for some of our students and their families. So thanks for bringing us together. I'm joking when I say that we could be working in committees or perhaps even getting some much needed rest, but these COVID conditions have presented challenges, but everyone you have on the panel tonight, I could go through each and every one of my colleagues, are committed. We're here, and we're proud to be U of H representatives. So thank you, Jason. It's a great idea to bring us together.
Thank you, Senator Wittmeyer. Appreciate you being on with us. You mentioned the difficulties of COVID and healthcare. I actually had a question submitted by Dr. Bick May Wynn, who's faculty at the College of Medicine, or UH College of Medicine, about ensuring that there's equity in COVID-19 vaccine distribution. Senator Miles, I was hoping you could comment on that. I know that's been in the news. There's a recent press conference about that, which you and your colleagues led. So would you comment on that? It's not a UH issue, but it's on the minds of lots of us who are watching.
Thank you, Brother Smith. Let me first thank Dr. Couture and all of the leadership at University of Houston, including the alumni and our fantastic, diverse student body, and the alumni across the world, actually. Thank you for that question, Jason. Yes, as the highest ranking member on Senate Health and Human Services Democrat, on December the 7th, the state made a commitment to the state of Texas that they were going to issue out the vaccine and roll out the state's vaccine, providing the awareness of maximum benefit and equal concerns to the mitigation of health inequity areas, primarily communities of color, indigent communities, and we're staying on top of them to make sure that they do that and complete their promise. Houston's healthcare and Harris County Public Health are well suited for getting the vaccine administered in an equitable manner. University of Houston can take part in that in the Lone Star Circle of Care clinics, along with Legacy. And, DHS is required, we've required demographics data on the vaccine administration to be sent to the state. And they have now made it available to local and state agencies so that we can know what areas we need to go to. And I want to appreciate my colleagues for supporting that issue to make sure that we keep the state's promises that we're going to roll this program out in transparency. We're going to roll this out to the people who need it most first. And we had a meeting just this morning with Lieutenant Governor, Dr. Hellstadt and Nim Kitt, who was over the program. And I can assure you that every one of us, Republican or Democrat, are here to make sure that we issue out our vaccine in an equitable manner all across the state of Texas, from rural to urban. And I'm glad that University of Houston can take part in it with the Lone Star Circle of Care. But I can't end this question, Jason, Dr. Renew, and Tillman, without letting you know that I've got sitting right next to me one of your seniors, who's a staffer in my office, Mr. Philip Gutierrez, who is actually working with me on the vaccine rollout. He wanted me to make sure y'all knew that he's a senior, and his name is Philip Gutierrez, and he's my policy analyst. So that's my answer, Jason. Why don't you come around here and take a look? Put your head in it. That's one of your own right there.
We love to see it, and I know this session, like always, we have lots of U of H students who are working for our members of the legislature and helping on their staffs and getting great experience. For those students who are watching and still have some time, I'd encourage you to do it next session if you haven't done it this session. So just something to think about. I think I'd like to transition a little bit and ask Senator Alvarado a question about our, we actually had a question from Clint Lister, who is an alumnus from Houston, who submitted a question regarding the world's transition away from fossil fuels and the focus on solar and wind energy. He's concerned how this will affect Houston's economy and the future job prospects of graduating students. And Senator, I know the university has a proposal regarding commercialization of carbon capture, storage, management, and usage that would be a state-supported research facility. So I'm wondering if you think this is something that the legislature is prepared to support, and how we can get that over the finish line.
Great, thank you, Jason, and it's wonderful to be with everyone. As the dean said, most of us are still here in our office. It's been a long day, but boy, what a group you put together. I don't think there's anything this group can't accomplish. And I want to acknowledge the leadership of Dr. Couture, your board, especially Chairman Tillman Fertitta. I hope he continues to stay as the chair as long as he wants to, because under his leadership and Dr. Couture, we've accomplished so much: Tier 1 status, the medical school. And also, let me say a shout out to our former colleague, who I know is somewhere out there in the cyber world listening to us, Dean Watson. We're glad to have him at the University of Houston and in our city. He left us, but we're glad that he is there advocating on your behalf. Well, this question, look, we are Texans. We know how to walk and chew gum at the same time, and I don't think we ought to be able to be in a position where we have to choose protecting the environment or the economy. And U of H is playing a role in this with your CCME and the research hub that you have proposed. I know that our budget is under some constraints. You do have a couple of folks here on appropriations and finance, but I think we have to always be forward thinking, and in having some funding for the U of H CCME would accelerate the commercialization and implementation of the technologies. We have to continue to invest in developing renewable forms of energy, including solar and wind. We know that solar is a very big part here in Texas. We are ranked #1 for wind, #7 for solar, and we're not saying let's do away with the oil and gas industry. We can't do that. We have to have a balance of both, continue to invest in the renewables, but also work to help our oil and gas industry to be clean and to, over time, reduce emissions. And some of them are doing it on their own. There are about 40 companies and trade associations that have formed the Texas Methane Flaring Coalition, which will minimize flaring and hopefully reduce emissions. So I think both of these things go hand in hand. Let's continue to invest in new technology, and let's do what we can in partnership with oil and gas, especially because we're here in Texas. Those are a lot of jobs, and we have to make sure that we continue to support those.
Thank you, Senator. Senator Creighton, we got lots of questions about the PUF funding. It's always something that University of Houston graduates are focused on. But I think it comes down to allocation of resources to universities, and our graduates, our alumni, our students want to have the same access to everyone else. I'm wondering, as chair of higher education and a member of the finance committee, how do you help educate your colleagues on why higher education is simply worth funding, worth the investment? And how did the supporters of the University of Houston, best do that when we reach out to our own legislators, the folks that represent us in our own districts?
It's a great question, Jason. First, it's good to be, on the panel with, you and all of my colleagues, certainly from the Senate, and you've got a couple of all-star members from the House on here too. I see Representative Wally's got his helmet displayed, and I have a U of H helmet in my office as well. So the next panel I'm on, I'm going to have that behind me. But I appreciate being on with you. Chancellor Couture is, always appreciate working with you and your leadership, and Chairman Fertitta and everyone in U of H world. So Jason, I've been on campus a couple of times over the past month, and just, seeing firsthand what's happening there and all the exciting updates and performance from the University of Houston. It's a privilege to be able to work in this space in the legislature. And so, as you mentioned, I recently gained a seat on Senate Finance. And so how do I educate my colleagues on these particular goals, including PUF? Right now, I'm in day 2 of my tenure on Senate Finance, and I'm not educating them on anything. It's quite the other way around. So Dean Wittmeyer included, I'm getting my feet under me on budget. But what we have done is we've taken the chairmanship of higher education in the Senate and merged it back with the Senate Finance Committee where it belongs, and we've combined policy and the dollars, and that's a very good place to be as I work with my colleagues that are on this panel and throughout the Capitol. So for the question about PUF funding direct, we have to continue to advocate. I mean, putting a panel together like this, and whether it's virtual or maybe hopefully someday in person, continuing to advocate for our priorities and goals for the way we shape the budget and how those dollars flow. It starts with what we're doing right here tonight. And I think I can speak for everyone on this panel that our doors are open. We have, incredible access at the Texas Capitol, whether someone can travel here direct or through, other mediums of contacting our offices, and we're all very responsive. But, Senate Bill 1 and how we craft the budget, it's the only bill we have to pass. And for the 250 billion plus that flow through our coffers, and the fact that we balance our budget, unlike other states and what we see at the federal level, it's just we have our priorities in place. And as Dean Wittmeyer mentioned and Senator Miles mentioned, our parties work together in this building. We have an aisle, but we don't separate ourselves by the aisle, and we share in these goals and priorities, and it starts with that budget. So we'll continue to work on the way the formulas, are handed down and set. We've seen the base budget, and we know, where we're launching from as a foundation. And some have said, last session when we left, we had incredible lifts and changes on property tax, on K through 12, public education funding and reforms, and on Harvey recovery. And normally we're focused on one major subject for that legislative session. I just named 3, and we could probably add 2 more if we tried, along with the 7,000 other bills that were filed. And this session, when we left last session for the interim, we many of us were talking about next session, which would be this one, would be a higher ed session. And I think all sessions should be a higher education session, because we know what we've experienced through COVID, and with 4 million plus Texans that found themselves out of work. And we're shoring the gap on that now and making good progress. But what we know is that higher education will lead, and from policy to the investment that we make through the budget, will lead on workforce recovery, and we will lead on policies that will not just help people get back to work, but make generational changes in their lives and the lives of their families. So we're working on policies that directly affect adult learners. We're working on policies that review what we did for transferability last session, and data monitoring, and just how we continue to shape and evolve higher education policies and the budget that affects it, the $20 billion that flow through state coffers to higher education institutions on achieving these goals for our students and for our recovering workforce. So a lot of that depends on a review of sort of archaic ways that we have developed a budget culture, and who benefits, both winners and losers, and priorities that can evolve and change. And that just that comes down to advocacy, which circles back to your original question. How can we affect change? And use the PUF fund as an example, but really there's many categories from a budget culture standpoint on a review of how we can invest in our tier 1 universities like U of H that show so much promise and performance and upside that the rest of the world is recognizing, and really has been for some time now. So one thing that I would like to do for sure this session in particular is to rename TRBs, tuition revenue bonds, that are capital improvement bonds for our university campuses. We weren't able to accomplish that last session. And so I know we've been through very difficult times in the interim, and we're taking step by step, examples on how to recover and to shape the future for how we're laying out the session and what Texas will look like going forward. But the public and many of the members don't exactly understand or sometimes prioritize what a tuition revenue bond is. And we may look at what other states have done and rename those as we push forward to not just rename them, but get those passed this time around. So I hope that helps with some of the priorities that we've shaped as our agenda going forward for the committee. And be happy to answer any other questions, Jason, or from the panel if they have any as well.
Sure. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Representative Wally, I was hoping you might comment. I don't think there's anybody as proud as you about being a UH graduate. There's so much. I love going to your office. It's like a accoutrement of UH gear, but I think you always have it in your heart when you go into a legislative session with the intention of finding ways to help us. We appreciate that about you. Last session, you were integral in finding the funds for a new UH law building. Your spot on the conference committee for appropriations was key to doing that. But you have to get others to join you to get things done. How do you do that? How do you work with your colleagues to make UH a priority for those who don't necessarily have a direct connection?
No, thanks, Jason, for the platform, and thank you. Glad to be on with all my colleagues in the House and the Senate. All good, each one of them, good friends and folks that I value and appreciate their friendship and mentorship over the years. And Dr. Couture, appreciate working with you, Chairman Tillman, Fertitta. Appreciate all your obviously personal investment, your monetary investment in the university, because those students later on, we hope that that investment is paying off for those young people that are getting degrees from that university that has more value, right? And so, and just to before I answer the question, I do want to, particularly give a special shout out to you, your Jason, and your team, and Susie, Karina, Sarah, Deidre, all folks that I really appreciate working with on a weekly basis. When there's events, community events, they're always out there in the community at parades, doing food distribution. I know Susie was out doing food distribution for some folks. So, I do want to give those folks, Dr. Cortina, I always see him out, and Mike, really appreciate Pade, appreciate you. And, Senator Miles, I also have a U of H Hobby Fellow. And so that's a wonderful program for our, those of us in the House can't pay a lot. We get small budgets, right? So we can't pay a lot to our staff. So those Hobby Fellows, when they're really good, and most of them actually, and it partly answers your question, Jason, that you have very smart, capable young people that are coming into our offices, whether it's in the House or the Senate, that coming in, just bright young students, really eager to learn, and great writers, great thinkers. And what we try to do is mold them into the politics, right? Into making sure that they get the politics as well. And so I always appreciate the Hobby Fellow folks. But one of the ways that you convince folks is by hiring good people, right? And U of H is at the forefront of being that pipeline of not just folks that get elected, because that's a huge part of it, is getting folks that are from the university or have tied to universities to run for office. That's a big component of it, because you need those folks that are invested, like me and like my fellow panelists here. That whenever you talk to folks on the appropriations committee, that you make a case, right? And you can make a compelling case. Why does a university need another? Why does Houston need another medical school, right? When you see those pressures from other institutions about the competition, right? So I think that having those folks in leadership positions like Senator Wittmeyer, like Chairman Creigh, Dennis Paul, Boris Miles, Alvarado, the contingent that you have here, bipartisan, bicameral, that really goes to bat for the university. So when the University of Houston Law Center, of which I graduated from, when you can explain to your colleagues that on one floor you only have one working restroom, or that the library flooded out because of not just one or two floods, but several floods. I think that's an easy case to make, right? But frankly, it's really the folks that are on this panel, the folks that are watching from California. I have a friend, Michelle Perino, who's watching, U of H law graduate. watching from San Diego, California. She's a lawyer out there. You know, you get all these folks that are really getting into being aggressive with our members of the legislature. And this type of panel, this type of forum allows for that, so that you know, really advocate globally. You advocate from a regional perspective. And we know that the University of Houston, when California, it's a travesty that California has wonderful public institutions, you know, some of the top 5, you know, 10 universities, you know, nationally in California. You need to have advocates like those of us on this panel to be able to push for Texas to be included in those public institutions that are top tier universities, right? UT and A&M have access to PUF, wonderful, not knocking that. Those are wonderful institutions. They provide a huge economic engine for our community in Texas. But U of H deserves to be at that level, and other institutions deserve to be at that level. And I think, you know, my colleagues on this panel we're locked and loaded to be able to provide those resources. Like the, you know, I initially asked for 60 million for the law center. The chairman came back and told us, hey, you gotta, you know, you're gonna get 45, but you gotta share it with the hobby school. So I was like, look, we'll take what you can give us, but that doesn't happen without that chairman also having connections to the University of Houston, right? But it doesn't happen without Boris Miles knowing about it. It doesn't happen without Carol Alvarado knowing about it. That doesn't happen without Dennis Paul and Brandon Creighton. And it definitely doesn't happen without Senator John Wittmeyer, right? So it's important, you know, that you have folks like me that are on the conference committee, but it's just not me. It's all these people that push it, that are in those people's ears, bugging them too, right? So, you know, thank you for this opportunity. I'm proud Cougar, and we'll see what happens this next budget cycle. And if I get back on the conference committee, you know, if I get back on the conference committee, then, you know, you have an ally.
Absolutely do. Absolutely. Representative Paul, you know, Representative Wally touched on it about making the University of Houston a top university. We have 2 top 50 public universities in the state so far. The chancellor mentioned it earlier about making the University of Houston a top 50 public university. What would that mean for you as an alumni and a very proud alumni of the University of Houston?
Well, that's a great question, and I really want to get into that. But first, I want to also thank my fellow panelists here on this, that you know, we all love the university, you could tell it. And thank y'all, President Couture for having us here, Chairman Tillman for having us and being a part of this, and your time, Jason, as well, for helping us put together, and all you Cougar family out there. It's good to be with y'all. And again, wish we could all be in person to see everybody, get another great photograph up in front of the Capitol. But look, you know, Jason, when I first started running in the legislature back in 2013, I actually made this as one of my goals as a legislator. I wanted to be able to open it up, look at the rankings, and see at least 3, hopefully 4 universities in the state of Texas in this top 50 ranking. And Representative Wally just nailed it right there. You know, this is what we have to do. You can't look at California and compare them to us in our educational system and know that we have to have these universities up there. And without a doubt, the University of Houston has to be one of these universities in the top 50. And, you know, hey, once we get that goal, we'll start shooting for 25. And so it's critical that we do. It's critical for the state of Texas to have that, the state with almost 30 million people, to have that educational resource. It's important for our citizens of the city of Houston to have that. You can't have the 3rd, 4th largest city in the nation, you know, without having you know, Rice is there, but, you know, to have a state-funded institution in that kind of ranking to fill our needs and make it work. So I'm just super excited about getting it to be there. I know that our leadership at the University of Houston can get it done. They have accomplished so much in the last 10, 15 years of what it's done. You know, it's been quite a while since I've been at the university as a student, Well, maybe the senator was there before I was. But it's been quite a while since I've been a student over there. So, but the changes has really been fantastic. And I'm just so excited about seeing what it was, excited about what we can do to get it, excited about we can get it into this top 50, and just a great asset to the state. And I also wanted to say, Senator Creighton and Wally, my U of H helmet, I need to dig it out here for sure. Mine's signed by Case Keenum, so y'all need to top that. So, but Jason, it's great to be here with you, and I look forward to being a part of the panel here for the rest of the night.
Thank you so much, Dennis. We're going to get right back to Jason in a second. We're going to jump in here really quickly to get a few remarks on how our visitors can help, our alumni and faculty staff can help. So I'd like to introduce two of our finest volunteers here at UHAA, President of the Austin Alumni Association, Mr. Philip Schultz, who is a baseball letterman here at the university several decades ago, and the Chairman of the UHAAF Public Relations Committee, Michael Sachs, who for his part had been instrumental in the rebirth of Frontier Fiesta and other student programmings here at the University of Houston. Gentlemen, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mike, and thank you to all of our alumni who have joined us tonight. It's engaged alumni like yourselves that have made an impact on the University of Houston Alumni Association Foundation. Our alumni volunteer leadership is truly the lifeblood of all that we do. With that, I'd like to add his comments. It's my privilege to introduce Philip Schultz. He's the president of the Austin Alumni Association, to share a few words. Philip?
Yeah, thanks, Michael. On behalf of the University of Houston Austin Alumni Chapter, we want to thank our state legislators for taking the time tonight to hear and discuss the legislative priorities that help advance our alma mater. Thanks, Jason and Drew, for coordinating this evening's events. While I believe we would love to be there in person like we have every other year, we appreciate the opportunity tonight. For our fellow Cougs across the state and beyond, be on the lookout for additional information on ways you too can help, and go Cougs.
Thank you, Philip and Michael, so much. We appreciate it. And we have a little bit more time till about 7:15. So I'm going to throw it back to Jason Smith to pick up where we left off with a few more questions and some commentary. Jason.
Thanks, Mike. So I always want to give our legislators a couple of minutes to add anything they think are important, things we might have missed, things we should look out for during the session. So wondering, Senator Alvarado, if you want to start off with anything you want to add.
Okay, great. Thanks again. And again, appreciate you sending us such talented interns. We have Christian and Cody from our office that are doing great work focusing on healthcare and other important issues. But I wanted to pitch something to Chairman Creighton. I think we should create a second PUF fund so that when the first PUF fund is capped out, then that excess money could go to create a second PUF fund. See, I had a bill in my last session in the House, and get this, y'all, if the bill had passed, today we would have $3 billion, with the B, $3 billion that would be available for U of H and Texas Tech. That's a lot of money. And we're not trying, as Representative Wally said, we're not trying to take anything away from UT or A&M. They can get what they get. But once that PUF fund is capped, let's spill over to another one and bring that money back to U of H. I tried that, and unfortunately we didn't get anywhere, but I think we need to keep moving in that direction. So I am very proud to be a Cougar. I guess at this point in my life, I should explain what that means, because that does have a double meaning in some environments. I'm proud to be a University of Houston Cougar. Those of you that are laughing, get it. Those of you who aren't laughing, I'll explain it offline. But anyway, hey, having U of H to reach the most funding, but reach its potential with funding is important for our entire state, whether you're alumni or not. The largest city in the state, fourth largest in the country, we deserve to have and to be on equal footing as other universities. So let's keep working in a bipartisan way for that. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator. Senator Miles, do you have any final comments you want to add?
Of course, Jason. Let me first say that, it's a privilege to be on the Oil and Gas Committee in this state, just because of the nature of this state. And it's a privilege to be on oil and gas. And I just want the University of Houston community to know I offered and got off of oil and gas so that I can be with my good friend Brandon Creigh on higher ed, so that I can focus in on University of Houston downtown, and of course the flagship University of Houston Central. I so much appreciated last session when the med school was brought to my attention, and the mission that it had to educate primary care physicians in underserved areas of Houston. I always tell Dr. Manu a little story growing up in Third Ward, Texas, and you refer to it as Third Ward, Houston, and going to Jack A. Senior High School right across the street. In the early 80s, University of Houston it was like taboo for us, Mr. Chairman Tillman, Fertitta, for us to even go onto the campus. And because of y'all's leadership, now it's open. Kids are going across the campus. Kids are attending the campus from Third Ward. The University of Houston has become part of the thread of Third Ward Houston, and that's very exciting for me, being a Third Ward resident. And the medical school is not going to do anything but help. The team of faculty and community health workers and medical and pharmacy social workers visiting families in the Third Ward to take care of a holistic approach to the social issues and the medical issues of our community. That is fantastic. And as long as I intend to be a state senator, I expect to be on higher ed, and I look forward to always fighting and working for the University of Houston. This is our year. As Brandon Creighton said, we planned last year for this to be the higher ed, last session for this to be a higher ed session, and I think all of our colleagues are on board. And y'all should expect some great things coming out. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. I just want to let everybody know who is watching. Senator Miles is just one of the first and most ardent supporters of the UH College of Medicine. We wouldn't have got it done without him. What a tremendous job he did for us last session, along with his colleagues. But for the senator who represents the university, that person has to really do some real legwork and really heavy lifting to get things like this done. So appreciate you.
And it's an honor and a privilege to represent the universities.
Thank you. Senator Creighton, anything to add?
I just enjoy the comments. If anything, it shows that everyone that's logged on and is participating in this call, what we have in the Texas Capitol as just a source of talent, and you can certainly see collectively that none of us accept no for an answer when it's the right thing to do. So there was a day and time where, all of us were told that it just was not going to happen to expand Tier 1 university status, right? And then there was a day and time where, many were told that it was just a little bit early to be talking about the concept of a medical school. So, much to the credit, of our other panelists, separate from myself, that they just have a never quit attitude when it's the right thing to do. And it's the session to, in my opinion, to be bold and to think big. It's not a session to hold back and just think about a base budget and redistricting. Texans expect it. Higher ed, the policy and the dollars will lead in the recovery, post-COVID, as we continue to win the battle. And I just appreciate being able to work with all of you and to be at the table. So appreciate it, Jason and Dr. Couture, Chancellor Couture, and Chairman Fertitta, and all others in leadership and on this call. I like Senator Miles' card he's putting up, And it's just, I can't tell you enough how wonderful it is. And it's a privilege to work with these folks.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Representative Wally, anything to add?
No, thank you, Jason. I do want to, acknowledge Yasmin, the student who, said a few words and representing all the students from the university, from all the, let alone the flagship, but all of our institutions, Victoria, U of H downtown, Clear Lake, Sugar Land. But, she represents all those students. And so I do want to, appreciate her words, and to all the students that are affiliated or attending the University of Houston. We appreciate you. We know these are difficult times right now, having to attend class, virtually and not being face-to-face a lot. But we understand that there's a lot of challenges for those young people. And so just let them know that we appreciate them. We love them. We encourage them. We lift them up. We want them to finish strong. Those that are be finishing up their hours for a degree here pretty soon. To all the alumni that are on, we thank you for your dollars. We thank you for your advocacy. Without you, we can't do the things that we do, and obviously the staff that is working. I failed to mention earlier Representative Garnett Coleman, Chairman Coleman, of which this fine institution sits in this district and is your neighbor, literally down the street. So he was very instrumental in that hobby school money for you. And so I do want to acknowledge him and your newly appointed Regent Alonso Cantu, who's been a great friend to all of us on this panel from the Rio Grande Valley. And I know that he's, obviously wanted to, more presence down there in the Rio Grande Valley, but I appreciate his friendship over the years. Ms. Hobbs, I failed to mention you. We've talked a long time and known each other quite a number of years. So I just want to say thank you, to Chairman Creighton's point. I will take a little twist off of that. And in Spanish, that my grandma used to say, it's roughly paraphrasing, Diosito no escucha al que no habla, basically meaning you don't get what you don't ask for, right? So if you're not here pounding our door virtually, you're not going to get what you want, right? So I would just tell you to as he said, don't take no for an answer. Just like many of us did and do for U of H when it comes to their funding. We don't take no for an answer, right? And so I appreciate having those partners in that process. So, thank you, Jason. I appreciate y'all's work. Thank you, Deidre, all the whole team over there. And I'm proud to be a Cougar. And it's important that we be proud of wearing our Cougar gear and get ready for battle.
We know if you have any eligibility left, you'd be out there on the field with them. So we'll make sure.
Yeah, if I don't break a hammy or something, I don't tear my Achilles
for a couple of plays. Representative, thanks for bringing up Representative Coleman and his work. That unfortunately he was not able to join us tonight, but we would be remiss if we didn't mention what a tremendous asset he's been representing the University of Houston for us for 30 years now. So we hope to see him soon. And Representative Paul, I'd like for you to close us out tonight, if you can. Let us know what we missed.
After all that, it'll be tough, but this is a good group of folks that we work well together to try to get all the goals we need to do for the state of Texas, especially for our region. And I'm just grateful that University of Houston Clear Lake is in my district, and we try to do whatever we can to make sure and meet all their goals, to take care of their students and meet the needs that they need so that they can educate the students of our region better and make them be able to advance and go on. I'm still the only professional engineer in the Texas legislature. So it's also great to call out to the engineering students out there to stick with it and maybe participate in government policy at the local level or state level or however you can serve. I think Armando mentioned that well. And I want to also say thanks. Make sure all those students go ahead and try to strive and be a part of who we are and what you can be and what you can accomplish. And those things you can accomplish at the University of Houston. A lot of what I am today is because of my time at the University of Houston, working on my master's as well as my bachelor's there. And even met my wife there at the University of Houston. So stay in there, make it work. You can get anything accomplished. And we know that we're going to be in that top 50 and hopefully one day be in that top 25 and make it happen. So God bless all y'all. God bless Texas, and God bless University of Houston. Go Cougs.
Thank you all. Thank you so much, Jason. Thank you all so much. The one question I didn't ask was, we heard top 50, top 25. Are the Cougars going to the Final Four? That's what I want to know, right? I know I see all of you at the games, and I know I see all of you there. Jason, thank you so much. I know I've seen just about everybody on the screen. If we go to the Final Four, I think Armando will be tough to contain. Let's just say that. He will be tough to contain. So thank you all so much for your support. Let me thank all of our guests today, all of our legislative friends who lent their time and expertise to our format tonight, and for their support of the University of Houston system all through the year. To all of you who joined us tonight, thank you for your attendance, and be on the lookout for ways that you too can help the University of Houston's legislative agenda come to life. On behalf of our entire team here at the University of Houston system, I also want to thank the entire IT team here who helped get us on your screen tonight, and everyone in the University of Houston Government Relations, Board of Regents, Presidents, and UHAA offices for their hard work on this event. On behalf of all of us, thank you so much for joining us tonight. Good night, go Cougs, and best of luck to the University of Houston system. Good night, everyone.